if you're interested in making money, what are some degrees or industries that you should look into?
There's money. If you're interested in making money, there's money in just about every industry. There's no industry that's fully automated yet. So until that happens, then there's money to be made there. I say that to say you have some wiggle room. You can focus more on what you are genuinely interested in, as opposed to what you have to do, because these are the only fields that make money. And if you're creative, the sky is the limit for you. If you can find a creative way to add value, real value, by finding a loophole in the market somewhere in whatever industry you're interested in, then you can win big. So there's money in every industry. And with technology, now there's a lower barrier of entry to a lot of industries, which I say to say that you don't really need to choose any one industry in particular. That concept of you had to be a lawyer, a doctor, engineer, accountant in order to be successful is not as true as it used to be. Of course, those skills can help you in just about any walk of life. Yes, but when it comes to just becoming financially successful, you don't really have to rely solely on those disciplines anymore to be successful financially. It's pretty much a wide open field today. It's just a matter of how passionate the person is, how disciplined the person is, how engaged the person is, and what the person is willing to do to achieve financial success.
And any educational paths that you think it's still, if you want to make money, having a certain degree or type of education will assist you?
Definitely. I think any degree that encourages a person to, because you don't need to have a degree for this, but any study that encourages a person to think critically, that vividly demands that if the person wants to become good at this discipline, that they think critically, is top notch. Not every discipline is like that. Some discipline is just about remembering facts and regurgitating those facts, at least in earlier stages of study. And there's some disciplines where from the very beginning, you have to think critically. Those disciplines, they have more value in life, long-term and short-term, than the other disciplines that just require regurgitating information tends to have.
Why do you think it's so important to think critically?
I think it's very important to think critically because without critical thought, that is, we don't dissect or analyze the intricacies enough to understand the nuance of life. And that includes ourselves, understanding ourselves deeply enough to see where we fit in this realm of life and what we want to do with it and how we can contribute to it. Without critical thought, essentially, we allow others to direct our lives. We don't step into what it means to be a human being without critical thought. Critical thought is the reason for consciousness. Otherwise, you would just operate subconsciously, right? Like the rest of nature does. The reason why man, meaning humans, have dominion over the earth is because we have the ability to think critically. We have the ability to create technology that can help us throughout the courses of our lives in a way that actually not only benefits us, but also, hopefully, ideally, benefits the world. So that we can take care of this place that we have dominion over. And we can work with nature as an extension of nature to promote more life. As opposed to operating subconsciously and not understanding nature enough, right? Not understanding the laws and the rules enough to understand how we can use it to improve what this human experience could potentially be, to improve what life could be. And that is essentially what makes a human being a human being. Otherwise, there's no difference between a human being and an animal. mentally. Critical thought is the path towards success, true success, in most, if not all, aspects of life. It's the only thing that we can control, our minds. We don't have control over anything else. So the fact that the only thing we have control over is our minds should tell us that having control, taking control over our minds, and using it is very important. Because through controlling our minds, we can control our lives. We can shape our reality. So without critical thought, you don't shape your reality. Without you shaping your reality, you leave it to nature to shape your reality, which essentially means your reality will be shaped by whoever thinks critically.
You think that critical thought is decreasing over the time? Or
Absolutely. I think there's ebbs and flows if we listen, if history is correct. Right? If history serves us correctly, there are ebbs and flows of peaks and valleys of critical thought and the popularity of it. Socrates is Socrates because he thought critically amongst a population that didn't. Philosophers, the great philosophers, are the great philosophers because thinking critically wasn't popular. That's why they became popular. And we see a lot of those people throughout history in some shape, form, or fashion, whether they're religious figures or not. So perhaps there are moments where there seems to be a lot of people thinking critically in society. And then there are moments when it seems like nearly no one is, at least in mainstream culture, what we can see. And this is not in relation to technology, because the ancient Greeks didn't have technology on the level that we have it. Yet Socrates is known by the world, although his teachers aren't, which is interesting. But he was, or he is, excuse me. It's not necessarily, it's not connected to technology. Through technology, perhaps someone who thinks critically can become very popular very quickly. Also, because of technology, perhaps people believe they don't need to think critically at all. They can just let the person on the other side of the screen tell them what to think, or the algorithm somehow influence their thoughts, as opposed to them influencing the algorithm to see and experience what they want to see and experience. There seems to be a drought of critical thinking right now, but that just means a flood is coming, usually. At least I'm hoping that is the case. Yeah.
that was also one of the biggest downfalls from the book of Outwitting the Devil, where you mentioned that not necessarily critical thought, but conforming. Which to me, what was the base of it all? It was the three disciplines when it comes to food, sex, and conforming your thought to the general population.
Language is very important. I say that to say, please be careful of the kind of language that you use and the words that you leave out or the words that you don't pay attention to in reference to what someone is saying, because it changes the meaning entirely.
Right.
So you have one, overindulgence that stifles people. That's food. The second being the desire for sexual expression, not sex, sexual expression. And then three, it's not about conforming your thoughts, it's about sharing your opinion, although you don't really know what you're talking about.
What's the difference between expressing desire for sexual expression and sex? What's the difference between those two?
What's the question?
What's the difference
What's the difference?
between the desire of sexual expression and sex?
The difference between the desire for sexual expression and sex is if you have a desire for sex, sexual expression, then you can miss what sex is about. You just want to express yourself sexually. Right? So the desire to express yourself sexually can lead you to having sex all the time and with whomever is interested in you expressing yourself in that way. If you have a desire for sex, it implies that you understand what sex is about. So it's not sex that's the issue. It's the overindulgence in sex. And chances are you're going to be interested in overindulging in sex if your desire is for the expression as opposed to the activity itself. You can have a nice body. You can express a nice body. You can have great knowledge and have a desire for knowledge, or you can have a desire for expressing your knowledge, telling the world everything you know. That's the same in this instance. If you have a desire for knowledge, perhaps the implication is you understand knowledge is key. If you have the desire for expressing your knowledge, perhaps you lack the understanding that the game is to be sold, not told. So in essence, although you have the knowledge, you lack the wisdom. And in this instance, in regard to sex, you have the sex, but you miss out on the power, the meaning of sex, because you just want to express yourself sexually. You don't want to actually indulge in the power of sex itself.